Now let's come to Africa. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has been touring Africa. We told you about how she was in South Africa yesterday. Earlier in the week, she was in Zambia and made some observations, noting that it was critically important to restructure its debt. And she believes that progress could be made after their friend talks with China, which they owe about $6 billion. Now, let's have Matt Kinniger joining us now to help us see some of the implications of this restructuring. Matt, good afternoon. So tell us, what are the prospects of a successful debt structuring when we look at the situation in Zambia?
Hi, thanks for having me on the show today. So I would say the prospects for a debt restructuring imminently, so over the next 6 months or even the next year, are probably not very strong. The issue is that debt talks are being held up by Chinese demands to include foreigners who hold local currency bonds into the restructuring process. And at the moment, it's very unclear how long this process will last in terms of the negotiations. A resolution to this issue is not particularly likely to come in the first half of 2023, as negotiations so far seem to be quite rigid, actually, so not very much movement there. If the country does exit default, and if there is a sort of meaningful restructuring of its debt this year, it'll really be in the second half of this year. But again, there's no clear timeline, and in our view, it's actually much more likely to occur in 2024. So we're not really holding our breath at the moment. We don't think it's very imminent.
Well, not sounding good. But how does this issue of default and all of that affect their outlook for the year?
Yeah, so I mean, it does sound quite unlikely that Zambia's exit from default will happen this year. Having said that, the economy is still growing, and some sectors of the economy are doing relatively well. So we're forecasting growth of about 3% in 2023, which is not too bad considering the country is blocked out of international capital markets. There are a couple of things that will be driving growth. We are seeing quite strong investment into the mining industry. We've seen Canadian mining companies invest there. We're also, copper prices are very high at the moment. This is a very strong boost for exports and government revenues to an extent. Having said that, the country is facing quite severe power shortages at the moment, so that is affecting industrial productivity. And also, obviously, the default and the continued state of sovereign default does mean that public finances are very constrained. So government investment, government spending will also be very muted. The government will have very limited ability to kickstart the economy through spending and investment. So it will contain growth over the next year or so. But overall, considering how the country remains in default, we are still expecting it to grow, so not doing too badly. I
wonder how the kwacha will also look like.
Yeah, so it's a good question to ask because the kwacha's been through a bit of a difficult time recently, especially since the sort of end of Q3 last year. It's lost quite a lot of value against the dollar. This depreciation, in our view, likely signals investors' continued pessimism regarding the prospect of the country exiting its debt default, and it's all related to this difficulty in restructuring its debt. Our view is that the longer the country remains in default, the longer the kwacha will remain under pressure. Maybe we'll see some more depreciation. Our view is that the kwacha will remain quite volatile in 2023, and we are going to see it likely exceed 20 per dollar for the foreseeable future. There are other drivers as well. We are seeing generally a strong dollar, which is affecting all emerging market currencies, and this is being driven by quite a significant US Federal Reserve tightening. So really what we would need to see is a substantial set of progress made towards debt renegotiations and an exit from default before the kwacha stabilizes over the next year or so.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for giving us an eye on Zambia there. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. You as well.